This is day one, and today we're coming right out of the gate with some good old-fashioned vintage Don Post stuff. We're going to talk about some masks I really love. We may have touched on one of these last year, but I don't think anybody's going to mind. But we're going to dig in first with a couple of old bearded men known as wizards. This is no doubt a rare mask. This here is the original. Uh-oh. Hey! Oh God, here we go. So here we have the original, the 1977 original. You could tell this is a much older mask than that one. The old brown cement, the old barge cement, dried brown after many years. It was a gray-haired version at first in the late 70s. Later in the 1980s, I'm going to tell like the little short history of this mask because it didn't always look like this. Its face changed around 1982. Notice how this guy has these features are kind of like long, and his face is a little angular. I don't know, he's got these like cheeks that are real chiseled in a way. You could tell these are the same sculpt, okay? When they retooled him, they could have, I don't think they resculpted the entire mask for 82. They could have retooled it and changed the tooling on it by making a clay press first, retooling it. But anyway, in 82, he looks a lot different. He's got bags under his eyes. The shape of his nose is different. I'm looking at him across the room right now. In 1982, they came out with a new sculpt for the wizard. You'll notice bags under the eyes. He now has a wart on his nose. The nose is sculpted different. His lips are different. He had a closed mouth before. Now it's a little open here. In 82, they not only debuted the new wizard, but they also did one of my favorite masks of all time, Merlin. The old blue version of the wizard, which is just one of the coolest masks I've ever seen. I just love that weird blue flesh tone they came up with the white beard. Totally brings me back, 82 to the time of Dungeons and Dragons. So some of you may remember from watching old videos I've done that these white care tags were right around the years of 81 and 82 for Don Post Studios. In 83, they came out with the blue and white care tags, which are what you'll see on that pumpkin right there. See the blue and white version? 83. 81, 82 on these white versions. This one was cast in black latex, that old late 70s black latex. But he was made in 81, 82, right at the time when the new one was coming out. So if you went into a costume shop in 82, you're going to get this dude, or that dude, or Merlin. You could see how old and wise this poor old wizard is looking. I got to fix that little spot of glue there. Look at that. See that? Anytime that happens on a mask, I won't just throw that in the trash. I'm going to go with glue, and I'm going to try to attach that little spot down so we, retain that original hair, and that little spot of glue will be back in its place. That's the old barge cement, it was called, like a two-part process of putting this old cement on, and the hair on all the old Frankensteins. They would use barge cement. Luckily on this one you don't see all the brown. Here you can see a little bit, but it doesn't bother me. When I was a younger collector, I would hate seeing old brown glue like that. Now it's so weird, but I love it. I think it's so cool. it just adds so much character to the mask, and you're like, that's an old freaking mask right there, you know? So just pretty neat. And we got the two versions here, but man, right before the release of the new one, they still pumped out brand spanking new copies out of that rare old 77 mold. So I just thought that was really neat, and I wanted to show you that. We cannot forget to mention good old Merlin. He goes right here. So you'd have that transition. That would be cool to see a blue freaking version of him as Merlin. Oh my God. Now my wheels are spinning. Look at these. Could you imagine? Huh? That weird blue tone. Pig skin pigment on that dude. That would be wild. Damn. Now I'm going to be looking for an old beat up one of these. This is actually going to a friend of mine, to his collection. And one of the OGs in the hobby is taking over. But I've said it before. I said, September, October, I'm going to get rid of a few masks and make some room down here. I've got more trips to the Frankenstein coming up, so I need to make some room. And, sometimes I really hate to get rid of pieces like this. I'm never going to find another one like this. I'm never going to find another beautiful brand. This thing's brand new. Look at it. Brand new. Tagged. It even has that little weird tag from whatever store it was in. But I mean, you do not get any better than that. That is a stellar copy. Take a good look at this, guys, before we move on. That is such a rare mask. Honestly, this is the very first one I've ever seen. I've never seen anyone have this first version. I've never seen anyone with a 77 wizard like that with the gray hair. I mean, this is just so cool. I think while we're talking about this, while we're on the subject, we should stick with old bearded men through this whole video. That's it. The whole video is going to be old bearded dudes, because there's some spectacular stuff to talk about. And we're going to move right on to the next spectacular masks by Don Post Studios. Here we go. All right, now we are looking at an insanely rare mask. Okay, this is getting into that really rare Don Post territory, where you're looking at the super rare. This, my friends, is the 1964 to 1966 calendar Mad Doctor. This is not a wizard, but this is the Mad Doctor, okay? I'm going to explain to you who the Mad Doctor is. So do you recognize this character? Do you know what this is from? Those of you that are true vintage horror fanatics will know. This character was played by Boris Karloff in the 1944 classic. Do you know what it is? House of Frankenstein, okay? The old Dr. Gustav Niemann. Boris Karloff played him. Don Post released this in their 1960s calendar line. So it made an appearance in the calendar, the Don Post Monster calendar, but he did not look like this. He was all red. This particular mask, I say this is the 1964 to 66 calendar mask. This was actually pulled from the production mold around 1982, 1983. So basically, someone took that original calendar mold and made a handful of castings. Maybe, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I know of maybe 2 or 3 of these to exist, okay? And this particular one was painted by Dr. Lady back probably in 82 or 83. Keep in mind, the original calendar line were very small masks, okay? This is a small mask. The production masks, some of them were too small. They barely fit people's heads. Don Post said, let's resculpt new versions. They made the Wolfman bee, the creature bee, you know, second versions that were larger. Okay. Now this mask here can be seen in The Good Book by Lee Lambert. Okay. The Illustrated History of Don Post Studios. That exact mask is right in the pages of this book, photographed. And this is the copy that is seen in David Lady's book. Okay. So when you see, let me pull up the little photo real quick. When you see this, can you see that? So that's the mask right here, pictured. That's it. That's this one. But anyway, if we go to our Illustrated History of Don Post Studios, let's go to the good old oh God, that's hideous. Let's go to the good old 1960s, the golden era. But to me, there's different. To me, they're all golden eras. Okay, so real quick, Monster Calendar version. See the squiggly lines in the forehead? They totally made it. They made it look so different than the film. They painted it red, which was horrible. Oh, here we go. Look at that. I mean, let's turn him around. Study the bags under the eyes, the thick wrinkles in that forehead. You see it? The crow's feet. So, I mean, that's what this is. But it's not the one they photographed for the calendar, obviously. So what I'm trying to show you, though, is a lot of these masks are mine in these pages. I'm going right by them. They're right on the wall behind me. All right, guys. Boom. Take a look at that. So keep in mind, his hair was nice and flat in this photo. I teased it and made it all crazy. He's a mad doctor. He's not going to Sunday school, okay? He's insane. So look, I made his hair nuts, but that's the same mask. You could tell. Hey, get out of there! Same little bloodshot eyes. The pattern it's all there, okay? Everything matches up perfectly. So anyway, if we go and read the caption, okay, and we're going to talk about this guy in a minute too. Following pages. Previous page, current photo of the Mad Doctor mask. This is back when Bobby Beeman owned this mask. Great old toy and monster collector Bobby Beeman. He's a friend of mine, and a lot of great masks from his collection ended up right here in the Crimson Ghost mask room. So anyway, I had to show you guys this because he is right here. And now, this guy. So back in the 1960s, we're not talking wizards now, we're talking Mad Doctor. He was first, this was the later B, like the resculpt. So the other version of the Mad Doctor also came out in the 1960s and carried in through the early 70s. And I happen to have an extremely rare early 70s copy right here in the room. Check this out. This is, to me, this is insane. This is exactly how the mask appears in the 1972 Don Post catalog sheet. Okay? I want to be so careful with this mask. This, in the 60s, he had gray hair. Okay? Just like in the old picture in the book. In the early 70s, you'll see in the old catalog picture, he had this blondish white hair. And they didn't have flesh tones painted on. They used the natural color of that latex rubber as the pigment. So that's why you see this aged brown color here. That's the actual color of the rubber. You know, the rubber just aged. Okay. They did put some airbrushed highlights in this mask when they produced him, but that's the original color of the bare rubber. Talk about saving time and money when you're making a mask. Why not just have the mask? You know, instead of that mask has been painted flesh tone, okay? This has not. No doubt the golden era of Don Post. To me, there's a few golden eras. I think they're all golden. 60s, 70s, and 80s. They all have their qualities, okay? So back to this mask. My good friend Aaron Brooks approached me one day on trading him this thing for some other thing I had. I cannot remember at the moment what it was, but when I saw this, I lost my mind. I'm like, Aaron, please let me acquire it. And at the time, let me see if I could dig up some old pictures. His hair, these old Don Post masks, as time goes on, their hair starts to almost act like dreadlocks. Even though it's not real hair, it will start making these weird twisty braids almost. And it's a natural thing that hair will do. And I carefully brushed it out with a special brush and a pick to get it to have that old appearance again, like it was hair on someone's head and not these weird, stringy little braids that it happens. You can still see a little bit going on in here. Understand, if you go to brush something like this, you can easily rip every bit of hair right off this mask. This glue is so brittle. This took hours and hours and hours of carefully holding things tight and just, lightly brushing over and over and getting it to soften up more and more. This here, you guys, let me move him out of the way because I really want you to get the full effect here. Keep in mind, he is so brittle, okay? That latex has aged. This unbelievable Mad Doctor is the only one I've ever seen. And believe me, I would love to see another example surface, okay? I mean, look at that, though. And that is a big mask, okay? Now we're going back. So we had the calendar masks, which were small. Now we're back to the era of larger wearable masks. Look at the size difference. That thing, I mean, to me, this is one of the coolest masks in this entire room. That is an awesome piece of Don Post history right there. However, so now back to this guy, back to the calendar mask. We're not done talking about him because something else that is absolutely incredible landed in this collection this year from the good old Frankenstein. And I got to bring him out. You got to go back on the shelf. Now we're going to talk about something so spectacular. I can't believe it is sitting here as a part of this collection. This mask, as I was saying, is so rare. It's just bananas that it's in this room right now, okay? This is an actual production casting of the Mad Doctor, the calendar, 1964 to 1966 mask, okay? Remember, I said the production molds were small, okay? What if I told you I had a real master pull from the original Pat Newman master mold, the 1966 Mad Doctor calendar mold? What if I told you that? Would you believe me? Probably, because I get some crazy stuff. Are you ready for this? Remember, production masks were small in the mid 60s, the calendars. The master, though, however, look at that. I just gotta take a moment. Guys, this is, to me, this is at the top. This is the pinnacle of Don Post Studios collecting. Like, you cannot, in my mind, get much higher than this. There's gonna be guys, rolling their eyes like, oh, shut up. Yeah, okay, whatever. This is insane, okay? And only true Don Post fanatics will get it. You know what I mean? anybody else looks at this, they're, oh, it's an old man mask, you know. This thing is absolutely nuts because this one will fit inside of that one. He can wear him as a Halloween mask. He's so big, okay? I mean, this is from the actual calendar master mold. That's the first cool thing about it. The second cool part, well, the second cool part's the size, no doubt, okay? Massive. Now, like, what else is there? What else is there is, this was painted by Rick Stratton in probably 82, I don't know, 1982-ish. I'm pretty positive Mascahuna laid this hair. This, to me, really reminds me of his stellar hair work. He's done nothing but got better over the years. This is still incredible. But, dude, I mean, this is nuts. He even put age spots on the skin, you know? And I gotta tell you guys something. I just figured something out as I'm filming this, and it's creepy as hell. I don't know if the camera's gonna catch this, but when I wiggle this mask back and forth, his freaking eyes jiggle. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like, is that really... Is it doing it on camera? I hope. Am I nuts? The shadow, the shading, is making the eyes move. They're stationary. They're not moving. But look at that. The shadow gives it the appearance that the eyes are like jiggling in his head. I hope this picks up on camera. Anyway, this is... So basically, this is like taking the calendar mold. Okay, number one, calendar masks are so rare. I've never even seen a version of every single calendar mask out there. Like, maybe one exists of some calendar masks, maybe 2 copies. But this is like taking the calendar master off the shelf in Dompo Studios back in 82, 83, making a fresh, brand new pull out of the calendar mold, the Pat Newman fucking mold, and making yourself a brand new calendar mask. This ain't the reissues. This is the real deal. You know what I mean? And that, to me, is one of the best things in this entire room. This will show you how big the masters were. And I mean, that's the size of a good regular mask these days. But the real calendars were so small. To see a calendar mask from the master is just so cool. So, and this thing, guys, this thing, of course, this came from the good old Frankenstein. This thing is soft. Okay, let's look at your for a second. Look at that aged latex. See the brown? That old rubber's aged inside, darkened. But this mask is soft and pliable, like it's 5 years old. Like, it's not hard as a rock. This was not on a styrofoam head, okay? It was on like a little, like a cylinder, like a metal cylinder wrapped in paper, like a heavy little thing it was sitting on. And I mean, this is just crazy. And Rick Stratton painted it. Oh my God. If you don't know who he is, I've brought him up many times on this channel. Legendary Hollywood effects master. And I've talked about masks that Rick has painted. Rick is the one behind Fantasy Faces Unlimited back in the early 80s. He produced the heavy metal, okay, the original, not the distortions one. He's the man that came up with the real deal original that Ed later, a couple years later, produced for the 83 lineup. But, you know, when Rick painted stuff, I've said this before, he had an edge over a lot of other mask painters at the time because he was a master makeup artist, okay? He knew shading and flesh tones like no other mask painter would know. You know, he had that edge, and the things he's painted back in the day, they're just so different from all the other stuff. You know, I've got other pieces down here painted by him. Frank had a lot of cool stuff that were early Rick Stratton pieces. So I should do a whole video just on Rick's stuff one day. So I mean, I know I sound excited telling you all about this. Don Post guys will get it. They're gonna go, holy shit, like that's insane. But to regular civilians, we'll call them, you know, you're getting the gist of how amazing this is by the way I'm describing it. So just incredible. So what else? What else was I? There was something else I had to bring up during all of this. Bearded guys, calendar masks. What? Okay, so we're gonna end this first day of October on a really good note. I was thinking of how I just showed you something quite spectacular, something that a real calendar master was taken and a casting was made out of it back in the early 80s. And to my knowledge, these calendar masters do not exist anymore. Maybe one does somewhere. You know, different molds were made back in the day from these old calendar pieces. There were second generation, third generations probably. But we would have been seeing, unless they've been coveted and locked away under lock and key where no one will ever be able to make castings out of them ever again, unless they're in a weird spot like that, I just don't think they're out there. I think they got tossed, you know, broken, stolen, who knows, over the years. So anytime you find a casting like that in your hands, that someone took that original calendar mold and made a casting out of it, that is crazy. You know, it's like, it's unbelievable. You could say it's the next best thing as to finding a real calendar mask. You could also say it's probably even better. There's collectors out there that would say that's better than having the original, because the original is going to be hard as a rock. It's going to be cracking. It's going to be so aged from the 60s that, you know, look at the condition of that thing, how soft it was. So now, my friends, this might be a little, this is going to be crazy. So this is going to be, okay. We're definitely going to close out this video with something amazing. And this is not technically a bearded old man. Let's just say a very hairy man. Very hairy man when the moon gets full, okay? We're talking about the Wolfman. And that old calendar Wolfman, this is not the Wolfman B. There's lots of Wolfman Bs out there, okay? The second version. Wolfman A is rarer than hen's teeth. We're talking the calendar mask. I've got one here, okay? I've got one sitting right here, which I'm going to show you, where an original calendar production mold was taken in the early 80s, and they pulled this. This is casting made in the early 80s. Calendar Wolfman A mold. Look at this, the detailing compared to the Wolfman you all really know and love out there. If you're mask collectors, Don Post collectors, you guys know what the Wolfman B looks like. It's ingrained into your memory because you've seen so many of them. This one is just different. You know, the Wolfman A is quite different. And this out of the real deal production mold for the calendar Wolfman A. Look at that. So, real quick, a Wolfman B is that dude, okay? They didn't come in black like that. That's a custom one, but look at the nose, the big nose, the teeth, study the teeth. Different, right? Original Wolfman B, 1975. See the nose with the markings on top of it, the teeth. Wolfman B down there, okay? The albino Wolfman is a Wolfman B. What? There's a Wolfman C right here in front of us. You're so crazy. Wolfman A, though. That is some rare stuff. I really have to clean this guy. He needs to be foam filled. Pay attention, kids. Guess what? Guess what's wrong with this? Oh my God, he's got a styrofoam head lodged inside of him that can't come out unless I do some crazy surgery. Yes. Luckily, Frank painted this head black, okay? It's still aged the latex, okay? But I don't think, in my opinion, if he didn't paint it black, it would be way worse and falling to pieces. It is no doubt brittle, and you are not pulling this styrofoam head out of here. So all you guys out there that say styrofoam heads are fine, what do you have to say about this? Like, what is your response to this? I would love to know in the comments. This is not coming out of this mask without completely effing it up, okay? Without slicing this into a million pieces to get rid of it. So what about this is still good to use for your masks? Like, I just don't understand. I don't get it. Keep in mind, this has been on here for about 40 years, okay? People go, I've had styrofoam heads under my masks for 10 years now. You're not going to see this in 10 years. You won't see it in 20 years. It takes 30 to 40 years of sitting there for this shit to happen. You know? I'm only going to carry on about it so much longer. Then I don't care what you do with your masks. You want to ruin your masks? If you're going to be a lifer in this hobby, you want to put your shit on styrofoam heads? Be my guest. This is once again another example of what happens with these stupid things. You can't get it out of there. You'll have to be so careful without completely breaking one of the rarest Wolfmen in the entire known hobby. But no, you guys say styrofoam heads are A-okay. Now, back to being excited. Okay, guys? I can't even scoot him over without fear of him breaking at the bottom because of the freaking head he's on. Get a good look, because now I'm going to bring out one last incredible piece. I told you we're going out with a bang here. It's going to get even better, so hang on. Okay. On the right, a real deal, 100% legit, 1966 calendar Wolfman. And this is not an 80s pull. It didn't come out of the back door of the factory like a lot of these did. This came out as a production mask in the mid-60s. This is the legit mask. This is more of a later 80s pull out of that original mold, like I was saying, which is still insanely rare. So that paint and that hair are not factory, but, you know, this is all yellowed. This is a legit mid-60s Wolfman. And, not to mention, it's the rare two-tone hair version that can be seen in Orgy of the Dead. This is that mask. You know, when this was new, the hair was crazy. You know, and it had, you could wear matching hands. That, my friends, is the real deal 1966 calendar Wolfman. They're going to look so different to you because this is like a custom pull, you know what I mean? But same thing. They're both calendar Wolfmen. This one has gone through issues with collapsing from gravity. I've done a lot of little restoration things to this to try to whip him into shape and bring him back to normal. You know, I still have more to go, but I mean, you're looking at one of the rarest Wolfman. You're looking at one of the rarest Wolfman masks known right there in front of you. Two of them, but that is the real deal. I hope this episode was somewhat exciting to kick off the month of October, because this is it. If you're watching this channel, this is your month, right? It's mine. October is so special to us in many ways. Of course, Halloween, fall monsters, horror, all of it is going on right now, and I hope you're ready for a lot of Monster Mask videos. Thank you again for watching, and you got to see some really, really rare stuff on this first day. We came out of the box strong, like I said. Rarest of the rare, ultra rare, 1960s Don Post rubber. You know, it doesn't get much better than that.